Right, negative indices. Let's try an example. We're going to apply the rules to the right, rule number 1 to 4. Let's try 1 over 8, which is 1 over, where 8 can be written as 2 to the power of 1 times 2 to the power of 1 times 2 to the power of 1. But sometimes if the power is not shown, it means it's 1. In fact, 8 has here 8 to the power of 1. So what we now need to do is to apply rule number 3 to the denominator, and that will become 1 over 2 to the power of 3, because we're adding the power when we're multiplying the base of the same base. And that will become, apply now rule number 1, which is 2 to the power of minus 3. You can go backwards. So if you're given 2 to the power of minus 3, you can write 1 over 2 to the power of 3, and that will give you 1 over 2 times 2 times 2, and that will become 1 over 8. Let's try another example. 1 over 9. 1 over 9. In this case, 9 can be written as 3 to the power of 1 times 3 to the power of 1, and that becomes 1 over 3 squared, because we're adding the power, and that becomes 3 to the power of minus 2. Remember, you can always go back the other way. So you can have 3 to the power of minus 2 equals 1 over 3 to the power of 2, and that will become 1 over 9. Let's try another example. 1 over 5 would become 5 to the power of minus 1. What about 1 over 1000? That will become 1 over 10 times 10 times 10, which then becomes 1 over 10 to the power of 3, and that will become 10 to the power minus 3. So let's try a couple of examples now. 2 to the power of minus 3 times 4 to the power of minus 1. Well, so what do we do here? All right. So let's convert the first one, which is 2 to the power of minus 3. That will become 1 over 2 to the power of 3. So we need to recognize the positive and the negative power, when the power is negative and when the power is positive, how to transform them. And then we're timesing that by 1 over 4 to the power of 1. But we can write 4 in terms of the power of 2's, because the clue is in the it's in the 2 to the power of 3. So we could write, or we could write the 2 to the power of 3, which is 8. So yeah, we could go straight for that. 1 over 8 times 1 over 4. So that's one way of doing that. And then we could get our answer as 1 over 32. Or we could go the other way by saying 1 over 2 to the power of 3 times 1 over 2 to the power of 2, because 4 is 2 to the power of 2. In this case, we add the power of the denominator, and that will become 1 over 2 to the power of 5, and that is 1 over 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and that will become 1 over 32. So either way, it's all good. Let's try another example. This we shall do quick. 10 to the power of minus 2 times 2 to the power of minus 4. Well, again, we cannot change 10 into base of 2 because that's 10 is not a multiple of 2. Because of that, we have to just write 1 over 10 to the power of 2, which is what it is, times 1 over 2 to the power of 4. In this case, that will be 1 over 100 times 1 over 2 to the power of 4 is 16. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And that will become, well, 16 times 100 is 1600. So that will become 1 over 1600. Mind you, you could go back the other way too. So remember, you can always go back the other way. 1 over 1600 is 1 over 100 times 1 over 16. 1 over 100 is 10 to the power minus 2. And therefore, 1 over 16 is 1 over 2 to the power 4, which then becomes 2 to the power minus 4. And therefore, you get 10 to the power minus 2 times 2 to the power minus 4. Let's try another example. Say 5 times 5 to the power minus 3. In this case, this is pretty obvious. When the base is the same, we add the power. The 5 is actually 5 to the power 1 times 5 to the power minus 3. What do we need to do? The base is the same, so write the base 5, and we write the base 5, and then we add the power. So 1 minus 3. Well, 1 plus minus 3 is 1 minus 3. And therefore we get 5 to the power minus 2. Now we know how to write 5 to the power minus 2 because it's 1 over 5 squared. And that becomes 1 over 25. And that's our answer. Let's try another question. 8 times 2 to the power of minus 3. In this case, we know what 8 will be. Let's keep it all in the same power if we can. Well, 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. So that will be 2 to the power of 3 times 2 to the power of minus 3. Well, in this case, the base are the same, and the power, when multiplying the base, we'll add the power. So it will be 2, 3 plus minus 3. I could write plus minus 3. In this case, I have to put the minus in bracket. Well, plus 3 plus minus 3 will become 2, 3 minus 3, because plus times minus is minus. That's why we put it in the bracket, so we multiply the plus and minus. And that will become 2 to the power of 0. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. So that's 1. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. This question is asking us to simplify. Well, this is straightforward. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then f to the power of 5 divided by f obviously is f to the power of 5 minus 1, because the f in the denominator is power of 1. So we're going to get 3 f to the power of 4, and that's our answer. When it says solve, in this case it's implying that make x the subject. The clue is in the question. It says 2 to the power of x equals 1 over 64. The clue is telling us to write 64 in terms of base 2. And so, because you go 2 to the power of x. And so what we need to do is write 2 to the power of x equals 1 over, well, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 32 times 2 is 64. Therefore, because we got 6 2's and they all have power of 1 each, and we're multiplying them, we add their powers. So that will be 1 over 2 to the power of 6. And that will become 2 to the power of minus 6. So in this case, we have 2 to the power of x equals 2 to the power of minus 6. If you have two bases and the equal sign between them, they have the same base, their power will be equal. So in this case, x equals minus 6.